That's long. That deer has to be dead. Yes. Oh, dude. I tell you what, I have been waiting my entire life to one day sit in a ground blind in northern Saskatchewan and chase a giant old bush buck with my bow and arrow. We were very, very fortunate this year. We tagged out early in Alberta with some really, really nice bucks. Actually, some of our biggest deer to date. And I managed to hook up with Tyler from Pierceland Outfitters, and he was gracious enough to bring us out. And that dream is about to come true. Just watching the sunrise on our very first morning, and actually as I was setting up shop, trying to get my camera and trying to essentially get my entire office set up in here, I had a doe and a fawn come in, and I tell you what, it's a completely different style of hunt. Similar in a lot of ways, but different in so many others. See, almost exact same bush that we hunt across the border. And so it's a very similar terrain, similar deer, similar everything. We sit morning till dark at home as well. The difference though is that at home, a good day is 3, 4, 5 deer, and I'm actually anticipating to see substantially more than that today, so.
Fresh off of one of the best months of whitetail hunting we'd ever experienced back home, I couldn't tell you how excited I was to head next door to northern Saskatchewan for our very first whitetail hunt with Pierceland Outfitters. For us, growing up not far across the border from Pierceland, it was well known around home that Tyler Pickowitz and his team were consistently killing some of the largest whitetail each year in Saskatchewan. I had always dreamed that one day I would be fortunate enough to spend a week in their camp and chase a giant old bush buck for myself. Fortunately, that dream came true this past fall when both Corey and myself arrived in camp with tags in our pockets. Walking into the main lodge was everything that we could have hoped for, with beautiful accommodations, friendly staff, and one heck of a trophy room. From there, we had a short drive to the remote lodge where we would be spending the week, and we couldn't have asked for a better setup. With a beautiful lodge nestled along the river in the middle of nowhere, it felt just like home. Anybody who watches our show understands how passionate we are about chasing giant old whitetail in the massive forest back home in Alberta. But as we drove almost an hour into the heart of the Saskatchewan forest, I couldn't help but wonder what kind of deer might call these woods home. After meeting up with our guide Rylan, he immediately sat us down and began showing us trail camera pictures of a couple of the bucks that we would be chasing for the week. We were targeting a few old bucks living way off the beaten path, but that was exactly the way we liked it. We knew it wasn't going to be easy, and the weather was turning cold and miserable, but I had never been more excited to hear my alarm go off that first morning. After spending the evening prior studying the covert trail camera pictures, we knew exactly which deer we were after. Like big old bucks often are, they were inconsistent on the cameras, and the one that I was chasing hadn't been back in almost 2 weeks. With the rut slowing down and the cold weather moving in, we were hopeful that they were going to be coming back to the stands to check for the last remaining does to be bred. Corey and I have both spent entire months of November sitting in a stand morning until dark waiting on one particular buck to come by back home, and we were prepared to spend all 6 days of our hunt at these particular stands if we had to.
Fatal Impact is proudly sponsored by Vortex Optics, Wood Wheaton Supercenter, Covert Scouting Cameras, Ole Smokes Coffee, Black Widow Innovations, and the MD of Bonnyville. This segment of the show is brought to you by Wood Wheaton Supercenter, a proud supporter of our outdoor heritage.
Well, it's our first day out here at Pierceland Outfitters, and I got on the stand this morning, and we had a couple of does hit the stand right in the morning here, and I could hear this buck grunting and groaning like right behind the blind, just right over here. And he was there for a long time, making all kinds of noise. And then finally, another doe had skirted out from across the bait on the other side there. And he come ripping right out of the bush, grunting, and chased that doe right off the bait. Like, it was pretty cool, actually. So these bucks, it's late November here, 25th, I believe. And the bucks are still rutting in northern Saskatchewan, so that's a good sign for us.
Okay, then we're good, so then we can slither out and head to the next one?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
You got everything you need out of the trailer?
Yeah. Just gotta make sure you grab your bow off of the...
Yeah.
Where are you putting that quad at? We'll just put it down the trail a little ways. Okay, no worries.
Okay, then let's get out of here. Good luck.
Yeah, good luck.
And if we got service, text me.
Yeah. Or I'll radio you too.
With plenty of action throughout the first day of our hunt, Corey was optimistic about crawling into the blind on day 2. This time of year, things often happen quickly, and the buck of your dreams can emerge from the brush at any time. The weather had cooled down substantially and the snow was moving in when Corey glanced out the window and saw his target buck step into view.
I just put an arrow in one of the target bucks that I was after. Yes. 35 yards. Hunting with Pierceland Outfitters. Second day in, and I've easily got my biggest archery whitetail I've ever taken in my life. I had deer all over me ever since Ryland dropped me off, like non-stop. Whole bunch of different bucks and does and everything. And like, just crazy, like unbelievable. These deer, I love Saskatchewan. I might be hooked. I might be coming back because this is unreal.
He came out of on the right hand side, right from the bush. He had his nose down, and he come up with us, and he looked at his big frame come right through the bush. Nice. And I haven't seen anything. The other ones that came in were a lot smaller, so as soon as this came in, I was like, holy.
It's the one you wanted, dude.
Yeah, he looked big, so alright. The 40, 43, 44, somewhere's over here, I think. But I still would have poked at him out here, though. I mean, it wasn't far off from the basically rifle shot.
Nice pass through.
Oh yeah, full of blood. It's exactly what you want to see.
Yeah, when you see that, you know he's not going far.
No. Let's see, when I released my arrow, I had no idea where it went.
Oh no?
No.
It's disappeared.
Didn't see it go through. The way I was sitting, I was kind of corked a little bit. So when I released, it kind of went back and I had no idea. Then I looked and I heard a smack. I'm like, oh, I hit him. He ran into the bush and then I did my recovery thing. Looked back in the footage. I was like, oh, hopefully it's a good shot. Hopefully it's a good shot. And I went back. I was like, oh yeah, he's dead. And ended up right here, right before the thick stuff.
Well, you got right here, buddy.
Thanks a lot, man. Thanks a lot, Rylan.
Beauty.
Appreciate it.
That's all.
Pierceland Outfitters does it again, eh?
The A-team.
Yeah.
Awesome deer, man.
Oh yeah. Can't go.
Target buck.
Yeah, it's always nice when a guy can connect on your target deer.
Yeah, good mature Saskatchewan whitetail.
Oh yeah. When he came on the right hand side of the bait there, that low spot up that little hill, he had his nose down, he had his like head tilted up like it was.
Tell what
Yeah.
he was.
No, he looked mean coming through. Like that's yeah. It was awesome. Like he was definitely rotten. He was coming to chase those does off the bait for sure. There was no mistaking.
When did you know it was him then?
As soon as you seen the split brow tine,
Yeah.
that was the only
It was
way.
a dead giveaway.
Yeah, oh, yeah. I was like, oh, that's him. I was gonna shoot him regardless, anyways, when he was coming through. No. And he come in, chased the does off, and then came and ate at the archery bait pile.
Yeah.
Ate there for a long time. There was a doe right behind him, that which I wasn't able to get a shot.
Yeah.
And then as soon as she left, he kind of knew something was up. He kind of backed up a little bit to where the sign was, about 35 yards, turned broadside before he went into the bush, and I drilled him. Had no choice.
No, you made a great shot.
Yeah, he was.
No question.
He only went about 30 yards.
Yeah, no, beautiful
Or
shot.
so, 40 yards.
Fatal Impact is proudly sponsored by Mad Ramps, Deluxe Wall Tents, Victory Archery, Top Notch Taxidermy Studio, Fedro Premium Ammunition, High Mountain Seasoning, iHunter, and Arkin RV. This segment of the show is brought to you by Deluxe Wall Tents, built in Canada for Canadian conditions.
After Corey tagged out on a gorgeous buck early in the week, he was able to join me in the blind for the rest of our hunt as I continued to sit for the giant typical frame 5x5 that hadn't been back in a few weeks. Knowing that the odds were against us, we climbed into the blind the very next day, prepared to sit for the rest of the week in the blistering cold. The temperature continued to plummet and was nearing minus 25 degrees Celsius on the quad ride in that morning. To be completely honest, I wasn't afraid of the cold. We spend weeks straight sitting in these temperatures some years. The only difference this time was that I was going to have to try and shoot my bow wearing an insane amount of clothing to stay warm. I had been seeing plenty of deer so far throughout the week, with a couple wicked up-and-coming superstars that just needed another year or two. The genetics and different age classes of deer in this part of the province are simply outstanding, and it's easily apparent that there will be plenty of mature bucks for years to come. Tyler and his team do an outstanding job managing the stands and targeting specific bucks, while letting younger deer thrive for the future. After only a few days in the stand that week near the end of the season, I can personally say that their strategy truly works. As the sun slowly started to take the chill out of the air that morning, we hadn't been in the blind long when Corey spotted movement back in the trees. What I saw next was a view that will stick with me for the rest of my life as one of the largest typical whitetail I had ever laid eyes on, strutted from the trees and into view.
shot, buddy.
Just watch him. He's right there, Corey. He's right there. Come on, go down. Go down.
He's hurting bad.
Guess what? Corey, did you see that deer? And Corey looked up. He's like, oh, there comes one. He's like, oh, it's just a little buck. And I poked my head up, and all I seen was just a tower of a frame. Just a freaking tower of a frame. And he come right in, chased all the does off. They scattered. And I tell you what, that is the biggest deer that I have stared down at 20 yards on the ground. My goodness.
Oh, that's him. That's him. I wasn't expecting that.
Corey's like, oh, it's just a little guy. And I looked up. No, it's not. That's the first buck we saw today.
Yeah.
I cannot believe that, dude. And I'm sure I smoked him. Like,
Oh, yeah.
he was perfectly broadside. That front shoulder was back a little bit. I didn't want to go too tight to that. My line was good.
Oh, yeah.
And I think I might have been just a tiny bit hot, maybe 2 inches high. But
Still double lung.
it made that popping sound. He ran 10 yards and kind of stuttered. And then he went side stumbling over the hill. And we heard him crash. But this is the deer that when we walked into camp, Rylan sat us down and he said, look, guys, here's a buck that's been showing up. We got a couple pictures of him the 10th, 11th, and 12th of November. And he hadn't been back since. And he was like, it's the time of year, end of November, where this deer could show up at any time. But immediately when we showed up in camp, we knew that these guys had done their homework. They had these deer figured out. They had the blinds brushed in perfectly. And I told Rylan, man, whatever you need us to do, I don't care if we have to sleep out here. If you think we can kill that deer, we will put in our time. And this is the second day in this stand. We would have killed him yesterday, but I had to leave and go with Corey. And that was the first time he had showed back up on camera yesterday. So when we checked the covert camera this morning, I was feeling good about today. And the first freaking buck that walks in is just a monster whitetail. Just a big old heavy bush buck, man. Sweeping tall tines, big main beams that come up. That is exactly what you come to Saskatchewan for. And that is the exact reason that we came to Pierceland Outfitters.
This segment of the show is brought to you by the MD of Bonnyville. Lake adventures happen here. This segment of the show is brought to you by Vortex, the force of optics.
Unbelievable.
He is everything that we thought he was.
What a slob. That is him, 100%.
Yeah, there's no mistaking him. I can't believe that actually worked. Literally, when we rolled into camp Sunday afternoon, I don't even think I knew your name yet, Rylan, and you were going through the trail camera pictures showing us this deer that had been here earlier in the month. And you were honest with us. You said you don't know if he's going to come back, but if we were willing to sit there, you would take us out. And you know, we have killed quite a few decent bucks before in our life, and we know that the one thing you got to do is put your time in. And we had no problem coming out here every day for the entire week. You guys had obviously done your homework and you knew what this deer was doing. And this time of year, oftentimes they do come back. They might vanish for the middle of the month, but they come home eventually. And that's exactly what he did.
He was cruising.
Exactly what you told us to do. That's what we did. And I mean, we just got rewarded with 2 giant old northern Saskatchewan bush bucks in 2 days with archery equipment like that.
2 miles apart.
I can't even wrap my head around that. What are we, 15 kilometers from the truck? We bounce in here on the quad. It's an adventure just getting in here on itself, into a patch of the bush where these deer have likely never seen a human before. And out from the timber walks this thing. And that's what we saw. As soon as he stepped out, it was just a giant old frame, big sweeping up tines, and then that main beam swooped up, and there was no mistaking him. He was unlike anything I had seen almost all year, to be honest. And every big deer I've killed has been with Corey behind the camera. And it's always been a day or 2 after he's tagged out on his.
Really?
Yep. Oh. My last 160-inch deer, well, my last 2 have been 1 day and 2 days after Corey tagged out and he come hunt with me. Wow. So I don't know what it is, but I'm just gonna start sitting in camp until Corey fills his tag, and then I'll start hunting. Yeah.
Well, might as well.
What an unreal experience, though. Looks unreal coming in.
Yeah. They got some great footage.
Well, you guys knocked them down pretty easy. How far did they go?
This one went 300 yards. We tracked them.
Yeah, mine went like what, 40?
Just specks of blood.
It was about 3 inches higher than I wanted to be. A perfect line and everything,
Yeah.
but it just, it wasn't spilling out. It was filling up inside.
Oh yeah.
When we found the arrow, like the arrow blew right through him, and it was solid coated blood. So I knew he was dead. It was just
That's good, Nick.